Hello, welcome back to the channel. It's Natalie. I am playing with Meadow Macaron or Macaron, depending on where you are in the world. I have this cute little image. She's so sweet. I am using Copics. I am using a different combination of skin colors, would you believe? So we've got E13, E11, EOO, and I'm going to go down to the EOO. I am going to cut her out, which is why you can see part of the, on the top of my hand, basically, that part of the macaroon, and it's in a lighter color. So I've got that all with a little bit of a lighter ink because that's going to form a little bit of a background, and that's a very, very subtle little background. I have used, she's got a little notch for, well, basically it's indicating her little nose, and I've used one of the darker inks just to put a little bit of shadow, a little bit of defining on her little nose. Underneath her neck is going to have a little bit of shadow. Her arm, I'm sort of doing it, the light is coming from the top right hand corner, so her shoulder is going to be light on this arm. Going down into her elbow, the inside of her elbow is going to be a little bit darker, and of course the bottom of her elbow, because it's going to be darker. With her legs, same sort of deal. The dress is going to be sitting over her leg, so that's going to provide a bit of a shadow. And there's going to be a little bit of shadow at her ankle on her back leg, because it is going to be sort of tucked in a little bit. There's not going to be much shadow, honestly, on that back foot at all. For her hair, we've got E39, 37, E35, 33, YR20. So all those are E's except the YR20, obviously. I tend to sort of go if they're all in the same color family, I'll go E39, 37, 35, 33, that sort of stuff. I try not to do that on videos, but just so you know, that's what I tend to do. This, I am giving her a little bit of a center highlight sort of thing, but it's going to be, I'm not big, I like a strong contrast. I do like a strong contrast, except with my hair. I like everything to be colored. When I originally was taught, the lady liked a really strong contrast in her hair, which is fine. Each to their own. But I will use all my colors right down to the YR20 to cover that all in. What the lady that I originally was taught from many, many moons ago was to leave it white. And probably not all of it, but the ones that I remember, it was left white. I don't like to do that. With the rest of her hair, I'm just trying to think of where things are over the top of something else. Her actual head, where it's pulled back into ponytail, is a little bit harder. But you're going to have a lot of movement, a lot of interest in the rest of it. And that's a small little area apart from what's there on the right hand side, on the right hand side, our right hand side. So you can see here on the left, the outer bit of her hair is sort of coming out from the behind another strand, so that's going to be a little bit darker. I'm just trying to make sure that it has a little bit of flow and a little bit of interest, and just, I'm not worrying about blend, because hair is not a smooth blend. You have lowlights, you have highlights in the hair. So working through that, you could sort of see parts of us are trying to stand out a little bit more than the other one. And basically I'm going to just keep going until I'm happy with the combination. And I mean, I'm after a little bit of blend, but it's not a smooth contrast like on the legs. This is the area of the top left of her head, where I would probably just sort of say not to stress too much. like I've still got the colours in there. It may not be all of them because it is a really tiny area. And even with the right hand side, I just would say not to stress so much. This is supposed to be relaxing. You have so much interest and so much fun stuff everywhere else that this little area, as long as it's not completely different, is not going to cause too much of a problem whatsoever. The dress, I have E49, E08, YR23, Y35 and Y02. For me, this is a strong contrast goldy sort of colour. You'll see it as it comes out. This one doesn't have a little tag on the top of the marker. Again, I'm thinking about how the dress is going to be sitting and therefore where my shadows are going to be. Now, in a ruffle, if you're wearing a ruffle, let's say pretend you're wearing a ruffle dress, the parts where it's, let's just say closer to your body, because if you hold it up, it's all going to smooth out. But the parts that might possibly be hitting your body, that's going to be the darker area because it is sort of a little bit buried, shall we say. And that's what I'm thinking about here. So defining so right near her hair there on the right, it's got a little bit of a dip down right at the very point, right there, right where I'm colouring. And so I've got the darker colour, but the ruffle to the left of that is going to be a quite highlighted and a light colour because that's what's sitting on top. That is what is going to be getting a lot of the light, the sun, so to speak. I am now working through just to give a really nice blend with my colour combinations and just to make sure I'm saturating the cardstock as much as I want to. Now, they will say that if you turn the cardstock over, I'm just trying to pick my words here. If you turn the cardstock over, you will pretty much see the image on the back of it. I mean, of course, not all the details and everything else, but you will see what's blue and the dress and the shape of it and everything else. This is fine, but it depends on what you want. I've said this before, it's knowing the rules and then knowing when to break them to achieve what you want. So knowing if I only put one colour down, depending on the colours, it may not blend so well. So I may need to go another colour, and it's also going to be a little bit less saturated, a little bit softer. And I've done that with other cards that I've made, and I can't think of one off the top of my head. But it's the same thing. I wanted a little softer colour, so I've only coloured it once, gone over it once. The band, the flowers, and the shoes are all going to be the same. So we've got BV29, B99, 97, 95, and B93. The flowers, I've just done a flick up through the centre and then just took it out because there's quite a few colours. And this has sort of like a purpley grey. This has like, it's a blue, but it's got the blue grey. So I just got confused for a second there. Anywho, the macarons, I don't really eat macarons very much because I just don't see them, and then they can be quite expensive because I believe they're quite hard to make, but I don't know too much about it. So what is supposed to be what, I don't know. There's icing in the center. A lot of the ones I've seen, it's the same color. This one for the macarons, we've got BB29 again, BB25, the 23, and the BV31 for the softer color. Now, where the icing is, Oh, and that's what I've also done is I've used a little bit of a glaze over where I've sort of decided the icing was. And that was the B95. Just looking through my notes, and yes, that was B95. Again, with the macarons, whatever's sitting, if it's sitting on top of something sitting on top of it, it's going to cause a shadow. So I'm going in with my glaze. And because they're transparent, that's why I've just given a little bit of a definition, a bit of a change. So here's all cut out. I love this sentiment. It's just have a sweet birthday. It's just lovely. I'm going to fishtail both ends of that. And now I've got this background that has this very soft macarons, and I'm loving what I'm doing. I originally wanted to use the Lost Shadow. Now that's too light. So let's go the milled lavender. No, that's too light. It's just too soft and it's just not right. So I'm going to put quite a heavy blob in the center with the Seedless Preserve. And then using the milled lavender to take that out and soften that out a little bit, and then a little bit of the Lost Shadow around the edges. Because this is Distress Oxide, and she's also going to sit on top, as you can see there, I'm not worrying about if it's blending in. Oxides are really good to blend, especially to start off with. If you're not too sure about blending, start with oxides because they're very forgiving. Distress colors are not as forgiving as oxides because what it is, oxides are pigment based and a mixture of pigment and dye. So the pigment sits on top of the ink, whereas dye soaks in really, really quickly. And therefore it's harder to, any heavy lines, it's harder to blend those out. You can't blend those out basically. I've got a little bit of grey cardstock from my stash. Cut that down to 14.4 by 10 centimeters. My main feature panel, we'll call it, is 14.1 by 9.7. And I've used foam dots for my double thickness for my sentiment and a single thickness for my little girl. The last thing I'm going to do is put a bit of Stardust stickles because you know me, that's what I've got to do. I've got a little bit on my flowers, and because we've got things happening in the background, I've only really used like a couple of dots like a wood sequence. So that's it for me. That's my card. I hope you're well. Take care. Bye.